The 80-20 rule posits that 80% of your success comes from 20% of your efforts. Say, for example, you sell 5 different types of socks, 5 different styles. The 80-20 rule or Pareto principle says that 80% of your profits or 80% of your sales will come from just one of those socks. Over 20% of patients use over 80% of healthcare resources. 20% of the world's population controls 80% of the world's wealth. And 20% of all Google's reported bugs cause 80% of system crashes and errors. Now, this is the normal application of the 80-20 rule, right? Using it to maximize business or performance or some kind of money thing. But why can't we apply the 80-20 rules to our everyday life? Why can't we 80-20 our lives? So the first place we're going to apply the 80-20 rule to is time, our most valuable resource. This is the most powerful impact, the greatest reward of applying 80-20 to our lives. So let's attack the 80-20 principle and applying it to our lives in 3 simple steps. Define the problem. How am I using my time right now? On what project? What do I want to fix? And then we apply 80-20 to those problems. What would an ideal life look like? How would I spend my time? Which actions produce 80% of the results in my life? And then we do the hardest part, which is execution. So step number 1 is we got to critically analyze everything in our lives. So on a quick personal analysis, I have about 20 pairs of shoes, and I only wear about 5 of them 80% of the time. I have 10 storage cupboards in my kitchen, and I only really use 2 of them 80% of the time. I spend 80% of my time with 20% of my family and friends. Now let's start with the hardest question. What thing that you spend 20% of your life doing gives you 80% of the joy in your life? So take a quick second now and list out 20 things in your life. And my list of 20 things was something like playing soccer, going to the gym, working on YouTube videos, cooking meals, meditating, watching TikTok, outside activities such as hiking and skiing and running, becoming better at your job, researching and planning to getting a new job, and so on. And I made a list of about 20 things. The next thing I did, I picked only 20% of those 20 things. And I picked exercise, family and friends, sleeping, and my work. And remember, we're picking the 4 things that we think create the net most total joy. But the net joy should be overall joy, right? Sometimes the gym sucks, like I hate when I'm there, but I feel good the next day or even later that day. And overall in my life, it's gonna create a lot of joy, right? Because it's gonna possibly make me live longer, reduce my chance of getting injured, and all these kind of nice other bonus things. The net joy is enormous. So now that we figured out the 4 things that net us the most joy, we're gonna start subtracting time from the other 16 things. So like TV, TikTok, cooking meals. These are things that I should subtract time from, right? Maybe I'll delete TikTok, throw away my TV, and start paying someone to just cook all my meals for me. If I had that money, I would. Okay, so that was the hardest part, but the most important part. And this should be a constant game that you play throughout your life, right? Maximizing your net joy. And this sounds kind of very hedonic and you run on that whole treadmill thing, but really it's about perfecting the things that you feel are most impactful to you, which in turn is most impactful on others, right? Because if you're the most joyful, I know it sounds really selfish, but usually you have a lot of people in your life, right? And if you're happy, if you're motivated, if you're fulfilled, you're likely to have a much better impact on those around you than if you're not feeling those things. Okay, now let's 80-20-ize the things that we don't really think about that much. And then we're just gonna go step by step through a couple things and apply 80-20. So number 1 is friendships and relationships. Usually 20% of your friendships create 80% of your joy. Now Dunbar, this researcher, a social psychology guy, said that we can only really maintain about 150 connections. Now if we take 20% of 100, right, that's 20 people. So figure out who those 20 people are, and here's where the magic happens. You need to make an effort. You need to call them, arrange times to hang out with them, arrange times to see these people. I call these people monthly now. I send emails, I arrange trips with these people, and it's had such an amazing impact on my life, I can't even say. This is something that I think everyone needs to do. And also what you do is you eliminate the people that maybe don't have such a great impact on your life. So not only are you removing a negative, but you're emphasizing a positive, which is the whole magic of the 80-20 rule, right? Next, let's talk about to-do lists. So I'm sure everyone has a massive to-do list. I have a massive to-do list. You can probably cut it down to 1/5 of the size it is currently. What 20% of these million things will create the biggest impact on yourself and your life. Getting a new job would likely have a considerable impact. Learning a new skill likely would have a big impact. Reading a book right now might not have that big an impact on my life. Creating comedy YouTube videos might not have that big of an impact on my life. Now, I'm not going to get rid of these things because I do want to do all these things eventually, but I'm just sidelining them for the moment. We all only have a limited amount of time, and for the next year, for whatever period of time you choose, I want to focus on a certain set of to-dos that I feel will have the most beneficial impact on my life. And that means working on my favorite YouTube videos like these ones, or trying to become a better doctor. Because I think those 20% of things create 80% of the outcomes in my life. Now let's get a little bit simpler here. Clothes. I have 5 suits. I only wear one of them consistently. I have 20 t-shirts. I probably only wear 4 of them consistently. I should eliminate the ones I don't wear and just focus on the shirts I do wear and the clothing I do wear. Simplify my choices, eliminating wasted time, and allowing me more time to do things in life that matters. My computer and my iPhone. There is probably 20% of the apps that I actually use, probably even fewer, 10%, maybe 5% of the apps that I actually use. I should just get rid of all the other apps and just put those apps that I actually use on my home screen. Now, exercise is a tricky one. How do we 80-20 exercise when really we should be doing as much exercise as we can? Right now, I simply just don't have the time to exercise 7 days a week like I would love to. Maybe I have time for maybe 3 to 5 sessions a week. And the thing that I've found to have the biggest impact on my life, my well-being, how I feel is weightlifting. So I'm gonna focus on that. That's the 20% of the exercise that I think has the 80% of impact on my life. Of course, I'll throw in a yoga session, a little bit of running, maybe some soccer here and there, but lifting is gonna be the thing that I stick to. And then even within weightlifting, what are the things I think achieve my goals? Now, it's important to align these 80-20s with your goals, right? So my 80-20 of lifting is happiness, sleep, and physical appearance. So I know within lifting, that means I have to do things like squatting, deadlifting, and bench press. These are the 20% of the exercises that create 80% of the gains for me. Maybe, yoga is really important to you, and that's the 20% of things that create 80% of your gains, then you should focus on that. So that's how you 80-20-erize your life. Now, this is just the tip of the iceberg, right? You can apply this to what books you read. Maybe you should only be reading finance books right now. Or maybe you want to read fantasy books because you want to focus on chilling out a little bit. But briefly, I want to mention a few small business applications because that's inevitable when you talk about 80-20. Where do the out of proportion gains come from in my online business YouTube thing? Well, writing these YouTube videos and courses online. Short form content, Instagram, Twitter, digital products, and affiliate links really haven't created as much, not only monetary gains, but amount of followers gains and also enjoyment gains for me that YouTube and writing articles and courses has. So what I've done is I've just sidelined all those other things, especially with my limited time, and focused as much as I can on YouTube, writing, and courses. Now again, you shouldn't just be doing YouTube, writing, and courses, right? You should think about your business in a critical way, or whatever you're doing in a critical way, and 80-20 it. Do you have sales that involves repeating clients or customers? There's likely 20% of the customers that's causing you 80% of the sales. Focus on those 20%. And it's very easy to say it, but the tracking is where the magic happens, right? The tracking of kind of where this income is coming from, which customers are providing these rewards, that's where the magic happens. Now you have to execute. Now that you've written down all these things and made all these plans in your mind, you actually have to make the changes in your life, which is the hardest part. But again, for life, we're optimizing for joy, right? And when you 80-20 your life for joy, I saw dramatic increases in my happiness and well-being. And when I'm happier, when I feel better, I'm gonna have better impacts on my friends, my family, and my patients, right? It's a win-win-win. So where can you apply 80-20? Now here's another easy 80-20. What 20% of charities have 80% of impact on the rest of the world, of helping people across the globe? Well, it's time to start my 50-minute video with my 13 research articles and my 20 experts that I talked to. Get ready to dig in. There will be no B-roll during this part either. Okay, Mr. Wall, help me out. Now, I know you're thrilled to get started, and let's get into it. Wait, I'm just hearing something from my amazing, fantastic producer, director, videographer. What are you doing, man? Figure it out. GiveWell has already done the 15 years of and my sweater looks dumb. It's not, you shouldn't, you're sitting right here. Why are you talking to the earpiece?
These actors, they think they are so special. What are you doing? Come on, man. Huh?
So dumb. Why did I get into this whole YouTube game? I don't know.
Yeah, they think they know. I did not go to Paris School of Directing for 900 years to figure this. Putain, merde.
Anyway, GiveWell is the place that's done this 80-20 analysis, and GiveWell are kindly sponsoring this video. GiveWell has combed through the evidence to find the highest impact charities, saving over 150,000 lives and impacting millions of others. Not only are these tax-deductible donations, but GiveWell takes no cut. I personally donated to the charity that provides vitamin A supplementation to people in Africa and Southeast Asia, as it's such a simple fix that can prevent blindness. If you've never donated to GiveWell before, you can have your donation matched up to $100 before the end of the year, or the matching funds last. But you can only use this if you use my special link, givewell.com/Zach with an H, and pick YouTube and enter Zach at checkout to get the extra bonus. And this isn't the bonus to you, right? This is the bonus to people that really need this help. So head to givewell.org/Zach and donate using 80-20 with GiveWell. But that is it. Thank you so much for watching. F you, director, and I will see you on the next one.